Very refreshing, Dalton. Thank you. Good morning. 4th of July weekend. I know there are people out on Lake Shasta on boats. I know that. And we'll just know that they're here with us in consciousness. Because the title of the talk is Heart Medicine. Well, since Thursday, we've been celebrating Independence Day. And you know what it took to celebrate Independence Day? The Revolutionary War. Now, you probably knew that. But that's when we declared our independence from Great Britain. One of the founding fathers, John Adams, said at that time that this day will be solemnized, however you say that, with pomp and circumstance, with parades, with bonfires, with games and sports from one end of the continent to the other. It would be that important. And I think we celebrate that really well here in Redding, if you got to see the fireworks. And in Anderson with Anderson Explodes, and in Lake California, we had a great day. I mean, talk about activities all day long, ending up with fireworks at night. It was just awesome. I don't know if you realize there were 87 founding fathers. 87. But we only usually hear about the famous ones. But did you know Benjamin Franklin invented the rocking chair? Yep, and he could yell at you in 6 languages. He was a brilliant man. And Thomas Jefferson had more books than I do. He had 6,500 books. And that was contributed to the start of the Library of Congress. James Adams attended Harvard at age 16. Alexander Hamilton, he was an orphan working as a shipping clerk, and he loved to write. And his writings became so popular, Columbia University invited him in as a student. So these were deep thinkers. They had intention in their blood. They were educated, they had intention, and they had a determination. Today we understand that as the power of intuition, the power of our intention, all working through this thing we call the law of cause and effect. Now we realize we're co-creators too. This is how our life works. So I was reading a talk preparing for this, and it was a talk given by Ernest Holmes on July 4th, 1937. It was called The Spiritual Meaning of Freedom, because he looked at our political system not as so much government, but a spiritual conception in the divine mind of God. That's how he approached it. He said that ever since human beings realized they were independent, they were searching for freedom from evil, freedom from bondage, freedom from fear, superstition, pain, disease, and poverty. So here we are in 2019, and how many million people on this earth are still searching for that? So there was a great framework by the founding fathers, but it's taking a long time to fill it in with the capacity of love for every human being on earth. There's a great demand that we see every day on the news for security, freedom, and liberty. And true freedom has a cosmic component to it. You know, science says if just the movement of a piece of paper or a butterfly flapping its wings has everything in the universe to shift. It's all shifting constantly. It's shifting to maintain balance in everything. The stuff that makes up our physical bodies is always trying to stay in balance, no matter how hard we don't eat the right things, don't exercise, whatever. It's always trying to shift and stay in balance. And the same thing with the planets. You know, our body is made of the stuff of the planets. There's nothing new in us that wasn't created. So there's no thing such as disunity in the universe, in the physical world. And great teachers have told us that for thousands of years, that we live with this law of cause and effect. It's not that we live with it, we live within it. We live within it. Our beliefs, our imaginations create reality. But when we talk of freedom, it takes something else. It takes a conscious decision not to hurt other people. to experience freedom, we have to consciously want to do that. There are many books out today about climate change. Having worked in the pulp and paper industry, the timber industry, the power industry, then managing a conservation district, and then being a minister, the pinnacle of my One of these books I read and just inhaled, A New Republic of the Heart by Terry Patton. It talks about holistic change in the world. And I love his last chapter. It's never too late and it never will be. He believes that the earth is powerfully resilient. Okay, guys, sound team. That the earth is powerfully resilient, and any disruptions in the environmental system will trigger self-regulating resilience in the planet that we live in, not on. That there are things in this alive earth that will work with whatever disgusting thing that we might do as human beings, but will work with that to try and re-stabilize. So every day, our individual intentions are part of that. Our daily intentions are powerful, just like the groups of 8. Our intentions are very powerful. And they shape our life, but also as humanity, they shape planetary effects. Right now, there are 7.7 billion people on Earth, and a study by the National Science Foundation showed the average person has between 12,000 and 60,000 thoughts a day, of which 80% are negative. And 95% of those thoughts are exactly the same ones we had yesterday. I was sharing that with Robin, and she said, oh yeah, I read that in a psychology class years ago, and they said it goes back to the point, back in time to when we could be eaten by animals. We were always on alert. What could happen? Negative thinking. But what happened is now we aren't being chased by animals, but we haven't given up that pattern of thought. That's what this new era is trying to do. Establish a new way of thinking. Because our thoughts are energy, and science says they influence subatomic particles. I had a lady call me yesterday trying to get this pain in her knee to go away. I said, are you tense? Oh yeah, can't walk, kind of frigid. Can you relax? Can you talk? Talk to your knee, talk to every cell in your body. So she's working on that and called me back. A couple hours later, she said, it feels a lot better. I didn't know I could talk to my body. Well, of course we can. It's alive. So the author, Patton, believes that at this point, the future of our existence on Earth is not fixed. And each of us has a part to play. Will we emerge? Let's say in 50 years, will what happens be based on fear, despair, or love and compassion? We don't really know how much disruption we're going to experience in life in the next couple of generations even. But we don't have to treat life as unsolvable. We don't have to treat life on Earth as a dilemma that can't be solved. We can cut through all this mind chatter and ask a deeper question. Can I find myself a place where no matter what, I can commit to it? No matter what. Can I relate to my fellow human beings with love and compassion? Do I care about nature? Do I care about trees? Do I care about flowers? Can I be fully present in love? Can I commit to that? Can I be a force for good every day? Can I commit to that? He says if we want anything to change, we must stop being passive observers. I don't know about you, but every time I hear about climate change, I go, I don't know. What can I do? What can I do? He says you're already in the game. Now you've got to play it. Now it's time to play ball. We're awake, we're educated, we believe in this philosophy that our thoughts create our experience. Make it a spiritual practice to share those positive thoughts for Earth, for our personal health. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you. She's so sweet. Make it a spiritual practice to be in the game of life, to be a full participant. Can we give positive intention every day, not only to ourselves, to our body, to our family, but to Earth, to the trees in our front yard, to the flowers in our garden? They all take in carbon dioxide and give off oxygen. So having true heart medicine is focusing our intention on love. I don't know if you read the paper yesterday, but they had a study, an article on a study released on Thursday by the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology. The study concluded that planting trees is the best way to fight climate change. Anybody who knows about carbon dioxide and oxygen and how all that works is like, yeah, duh. But what am I going to do? They identified the United States as one of 6 countries that have enough land to plant 1.5 trillion trees, which the study says would take care of global warming. That's a lot of trees. But if every one of us every year planted 1 tree, and there's 328 million people in this country, that's a lot of trees. That's significant. Could I do that? Well, of course I could. Did I think of it in that context? No, but I am now. Another book that I recently read, it's a beautiful cover, Climate, A New Story by Charles Eisenstein. A real page turner, believe me. His focus is on this word that Thich Nhat Hanh uses all the time, interbeing. So we're all interbeing, we're all together. I'm a part of you, you're a part of me, we're a part of this earth. The state of our political climate, he says, affects global climate. Our political climate affects global climate. Oh, remember that 80% negative thoughts? Oh boy. If 80% of our thoughts are negative, of course, the earth is going to feel it, and there will be shifting and changing energy. And we know it's true because even our own thoughts and beliefs come back to us. In that reading that Damien did. Ernest Holmes, 1926, he's writing this. Brilliant man. Nothing new today, but we feel it new if we look at it in different ways. Eisenstein is adamant that it's time to restore our capacity to feel our relationship with nature, and to love nature. That may sound simple, but have you loved your tree today? You know, when you're in love, when the one you love is here and you just feel oneness, you just feel like this, we're just one people, one person, this wonderful loving relationship. We can have that same inseparable love for Earth and everything in it. It's love that's heart medicine. It solves so many problems, so many issues. We can have the same love with the ecosystem in which we live. He writes, if we're going to make progress in all areas of life, we have to give up our addiction to fighting, controlling, and domination. We have to give up the war on drugs, the war on poverty, the war on opioids. We can access a greater power to heal all of those things if we frame each issue with love and peace. I don't want you to be in poverty because I love you. We can find a peaceful way to end the war on drugs. He writes about a time he visited Taiwan. He was to give a speech at a big conference there. And that morning, before the conference, a friend picked him up at 5 a.m. and they drove into the mountains because they were looking for what he heard was a sacred forest. So they drove all these windy roads. They got to this place where the trail started, and part of the trail you had to use ropes to stay on the side of the mountain. It was really a hairy experience. And for 2 hours, they climbed and climbed and climbed. And they started getting pretty tired, and they thought, oh no, here's another mountainside. It's just a mud hole. Do we really want to do this? And something in him said, yeah, we've put this much time in it. We should go up this next hill. And on the top of the hill was this little sign, and it said, come on, the Sacred Grove's only 5 minutes away. So they went. And they found a magnificent grove of trees over 2,000 years old, 15 feet in diameter. He said the limbs on these trees were bigger than he was tall. Can you imagine how magical that would be? There were ferns all over, and it was just this whole ecosystem sitting right here in this mountainside. They knew they were in the presence of divine beings. Neither of them spoke for a while, and he thought about, this forest used to be much bigger and had trees like this everywhere. And he asked his friend, do you think the trees are mad at us? And his friend thought for a minute, and he said, no. No, because we're here today. We're recognizing them as divine beings. And isn't that what anybody wants? To be seen, to be recognized? We're all part of this community of beings, and some people feel invisible. And it's time that we recognize them all. Well, they were hiking back to the car and realized they didn't have the car keys. You ever had that feeling? Oh my God. But they're in this mountain. They're out in the wilderness. And so, but they said the walk back to the car was magical because everything seemed alive. It seemed like it had more aliveness than before. Monkeys were climbing in the trees above them, swaying their tails over their heads. It was just magical. So they got to the car, windows tightly rolled up, car locked, peeked in, keys are on the front seat. Oh dear. So they saw a little house nearby, and they went over there and they said, how do we unlock our car? Do we call people that unlock cars? They said, no, you just call the police. Okay, so they called the police. Took an hour for them to get there. And the policeman looked and looked. He said, break the window. Which they did. Now they were really running late to get back to this conference. So they were driving very, very fast. And they went by this fruit stand, and he remembered earth guavas is what they were called. He said, oh, the last time I was here, I had these wonderful earth guavas. And he went on to describe them to his friend, and his mouth was just drooling and thinking of those earth guavas and feeling that, oh man, I'm so sorry I didn't get to stop and get some of those. So they arrive at the conference in the nick of time. They call him up to the stage, and he's full of mud. Gets up on stage, and just as he gets there, somebody taps him on the shoulder, and it's a person he hadn't seen for 25 years, and the person handed him a bag of earth guavas. Oh, that gives me chills. So when we're in this space of interbeing, when we're just one with it all, we begin to experience things that confirm it's all one, that the universe is intelligent, that the world is alive, and we want a healthy world. If we want a healthy world, we have to treat it as if it's alive. We have to give it good energy. So I think we're being brought to the end of an era where everything was separate, where you could cut down a forest and not think a thing of it. I think we're starting to feel, from many places on Earth, the oneness that's here. Eisenstein believes it's the degradation of our ecosystems that's the problem, that's doing the most damage. We can hear about it, think about it, watch it in the news, but when we go to Whiskeytown before and after the fire, we feel it. We feel the beauty that was there, and we feel a little shock about what's not there now. But we feel it. We have a new perspective. What does it really take to have a healthy forest? What does it take to have a healthy garden? It's tough medicine that the ecosystem itself, that we did not intend for it to be healthy and focus on its health, that we just let it be, and now it's showing us the results. But trees grow back. And I talked to someone at Whiskeytown, he said, when are you going to start? I said, when are you going to start planting trees? He said, we're not. The ecosystem is healthy. They're going to be coming back sooner than later. And I know that's true. So we know what we lost. And if we love really hard for that nature every time you drive by, or even if you're sitting in your yard, think about the land out there and send it love. Pay more attention and make more intentions to help Mother Earth. There's another after-the-fact story that Eisenstein wrote about. In the 70s and 80s, he was in a group of environmentalists that were waging a campaign to stop the construction of a 300-megawatt dam, the new Malonas Dam on the Stanislaus River. They tried everything. They hired lawyers, they went to court, they petitioned, they took physical action, even tied themselves to rocks. It didn't help. The dam still got built. So the group felt like they were just failures, absolute failures. But you know what happened after that? There's never been another dam that big built in the United States on a river. So it's an after the fact. There's an after the fact that wakes us up. All our systems are interdependent. All our organs and our blood, everything's interdependent. We're complex, but there's fundamental properties in everything and everyone that are important. So I agree with Ernest Holmes that it's important to use the 4th of July every year to reassess and look at our individual rights that were endowed by our Creator. Independence Day commemorates not just a revolution away from the British government, but it put together a framework for freedom. Now, we've come a long way since then, and all people don't feel free. All people still feel left out. But the framework is there. So, heart medicine today, the title of this talk, is not to live in fear of the future. We have power. All we have to do is reorient ourselves to thinking about praying for the trees and the creek and all the animals at Whiskeytown instead of saying, oh, it's never going to be the same. Get rid of that 80% negative thinking. Replace it with something positive, with positive intentions. Put your attention on the healing of the earth. We live in an intelligent universe, and something great is coming out of all this. The attention on healthy forests now at a state and federal level is finally happening. I know I was part of a lot of those walks and letters and things, 30 years ago. But we can all take to heart that every day is a new day where we can have a healthy intention based on love for ourselves, everyone, everything. So let's pray on that, Judy. It's a brand new day. On this weekend of celebrating the independence of our country, but the independence of our soul and the interdependence of all of humanity and everything in it. No longer do we look from the outside in. We feel the presence of being in this wonderful thing called Earth, in this wonderful community, in this beautiful room today, reassessing, where has my mind been? Reassessing, where will my mind be tomorrow? I commit to myself to be the best positive person I can be, knowing I'll slip up every once in a while. But then I reassess and realign and bring myself back to being one with you. One with trees, one with the deer, one with the butterflies. Oh, all of that goodness pouring out of Redding, California will make a beautiful difference. And we'll never know how, but we trust in the process. It's the law, cause and effect. We see it every day around us. And now we embrace it on a larger level. A planetary level, a universal level, why not? And thank God that we have the intelligence and the knowledge today to do that. And I carry that with me as I carry my love for you, knowing you too join in this great rally for a healthy world. So thank you, God, for this time, these incredible books, these incredible ideas that seem to all come together pretty well in this talk, and I stand back and I'm just so grateful. What else can I say? It's the law, and so it is.